You think your energy fades because your body runs down. You imagine a slow leak, a dying battery, a quiet loss. That picture feels obvious. It is also wrong. You think less energy means something is disappearing from you, something draining away with time, something youth once gave you. But physics does not allow things to simply vanish. And if you take the view of Richard Feynman, the question itself becomes uncomfortable, because the energy in you is not what you think it is. It was never yours in the first place. And aging does not do what you assume. The real story is colder, more mechanical, almost impersonal. You are not running out of energy. So what exactly is happening to it? You picture your body as a device, a machine with a charge level, a system that begins full and slowly empties, a battery that once held more and now holds less. You feel tired, so you assume something inside you is running out. This feels obvious. But notice what this picture assumes. It assumes energy is a substance stored inside you, a kind of invisible fuel sitting in a container called your body. It assumes aging is the gradual removal of that fuel. But stop and look carefully at what you call energy. When you eat, you say you gain energy. When you sleep, you say you restore energy. When you exercise, you say you use energy. The language suggests a reservoir, a tank, a measurable amount that rises and falls. But where is this tank? Not metaphorically, physically. You never observe energy itself. You only observe changes, movement, heat, chemical reactions, electrical signals in nerves. You observe processes, not a substance being drained. The battery picture survives because it is comfortable. It gives aging a simple story. You started with more, now you have less. But even ordinary experience already contradicts this. A tired person still contains enormous physical energy. The chemical energy stored in your body at any moment could heat water, move objects, produce measurable work. Nothing about exhaustion means the energy has vanished. So why does the experience feel like loss? Because the battery metaphor quietly replaces a harder question, not how much energy you have, but what energy is able to do. A fresh battery and a dead battery both contain matter. Both contain energy in a physical sense. The difference is not existence, but usability. Something has changed in how the energy can act. Your intuition skips this distinction. It jumps from I feel less capable to I possess less energy. This is the first mistake. You confuse ability with quantity, performance with possession, function with existence. The body is not a storage unit slowly being emptied. It is a continuous process. Chemical reactions, heat exchange, molecular repair, electrical activity happening every second. Even at rest, you are not holding energy. You are moving it constantly. What you call having energy may not be about how much exists inside you at all. It may be about how that energy is organized, directed, and transformed. And once that possibility enters, the idea of a simple decline becomes unstable. If nothing is simply draining away, then aging is not a story about disappearance. It is a story about change. And that forces a deeper question. If your energy is not vanishing, why does physics insist it cannot vanish at all? You are used to thinking in terms of loss. A candle burns down. A car runs out of fuel. Your body grows tired. Everything seems to point in one direction. Energy fades. But physics does not permit fading in this sense. It does not permit disappearance. There is a rule so strict, so universal, that every experiment has obeyed it without exception. Energy is never destroyed. Never. It changes form. It moves. It spreads. But it does not vanish. This is not philosophy. It is bookkeeping. Imagine sliding a book across a table. The book slows. It stops. Your intuition says the motion is gone. The energy of movement has been lost. But look closer. The table warms slightly. The air vibrates. Molecules in the surfaces jitter faster than before. The energy of motion has become microscopic motion. Heat, nothing disappeared. It merely became harder to notice. Or imagine dropping a ball. It falls, hits the ground, and does not bounce back to its original height. You say energy was lost. But the ground flexed. The ball deformed. Sound waves moved outward. Tiny vibrations scattered into the surroundings. Again, nothing vanished. The energy changed shape and escaped into more complicated forms. The same accounting applies to you. When you run, chemical energy in your muscles becomes motion, heat, and internal stress. When you think, electrical activity becomes heat in your brain. When you sit still, your body radiates warmth into the room. You are constantly transforming energy, not spending it into nothing. This creates a strange tension. If physics forbids energy from disappearing, and if your body always contains vast amounts of energy, then what does it mean to say you have less as you age? Less of what? The question becomes uncomfortable because conservation removes the simple explanation. You cannot blame aging on energy, draining away into non-existence. The universe does not allow such leaks. Instead, something subtler must be happening. Energy remains, but its form changes, its location changes, its behavior changes, and perhaps most importantly, its usefulness changes, because the energy locked in random molecular motion does not help you climb stairs. The heat diffusing from your skin does not help you think faster. Energy that exists everywhere may still accomplish nothing. So the deeper problem is not quantity. It is accessibility, not whether energy is present, but whether it can be directed, organized, and turned into action. And this forces a distinction your intuition rarely makes. There is energy, and then there is energy you can actually use. They are not the same thing. You assume energy is energy, a single thing, a measurable amount, a quantity that explains everything. But physics makes a distinction your intuition resists. There is energy that exists, and there is energy that can do something. These are not the same. Imagine a cup of hot coffee sitting in a cold room. At first, the heat difference is obvious. Energy flows from the coffee into the air. You could, in principle, use that temperature difference to run a tiny engine. Work can be extracted. Now wait, the coffee cools. The room warms slightly. Eventually, everything reaches the same temperature. The total energy in the room has not changed. Nothing disappeared. But try to run your engine now. You cannot. The energy is still there, scattered in the restless motion of countless molecules, but it has become useless for producing directed action. Same energy, different usefulness. This is the distinction your everyday thinking ignores. You do not experience total energy. You experience structured energy. Energy concentrated, organized, and capable of producing change you can control. A stretched rubber band can snap. A relaxed rubber band cannot. Both contain energy at the molecular level, but only one has energy arranged in a usable way. The difference is organization. Now apply this to your body. Your cells rely on carefully structured chemical gradients. Your muscles depend on precise molecular arrangements. Your brain functions through ordered electrical patterns. Your ability to act depends not just on how much energy exists, but on how precisely it is arranged. And arrangement is fragile. Energy naturally spreads out. Differences flatten, concentrations disperse, structure dissolves into randomness. You see this everywhere. Ice melts, perfume diffuses, heat flows from hot objects to cold ones. Ordered patterns drift toward disorder without being pushed. This tendency has a direction, and once energy spreads into countless microscopic motions, it becomes extraordinarily difficult, often impossible, to gather back into useful form. This is why your body must constantly repair itself, constantly rebuild structure, constantly fight dispersion. What you call having energy is really the ability to maintain these delicate arrangements. When that ability weakens, nothing magical is lost. No energy vanishes, but more and more energy slips into forms that cannot easily be used. It becomes heat, noise, random motion, present but ineffective. You feel this as fatigue, as reduced capacity, as decline. But physics describes something colder, a shift from ordered energy to disordered energy, a movement not of quantity, but of structure. And this movement is not specific to biology. It is a universal tendency built into the fabric of physical reality. You might think decline is a failure, a mistake in the system, a flaw in biology, something that should not happen but does. But physics suggests something far more unsettling. What you experience as decline is not an exception to the rules. It is the rule. There is a persistent tendency in nature, a direction built into physical processes toward disorder, not chaos in the dramatic sense. Not destruction, something quieter. Structure loosens, differences even out, patterns dissolve into randomness. Leave a house unattended, it decays. Stop stirring milk in coffee, it never unstirs itself. A shattered glass does not leap back together. These are not accidents. They reveal a deep asymmetry in how the universe behaves. Processes that create disorder happen easily. Processes that restore perfect order do not. This tendency has a name in physics, entropy, but the word can mislead. It does not mean mess in the everyday sense. It describes how spread out energy becomes, how many microscopic ways a system can arrange itself. A neatly organized state is rare and fragile. A disordered state can exist in countless variations, and systems naturally move toward what is statistically easier. Your body exists in a highly improbable condition. Proteins folded in precise shapes, cells maintaining strict boundaries, chemical concentrations carefully separated, electrical signals flowing in ordered patterns. You are not naturally stable. You are maintained. Every second, enormous effort is required to preserve this organization. Your body must constantly repair damage, correct errors, rebuild structure, and push against the natural drift toward disorder. This requires energy, not just to move, but to resist the universe's tendency to spread things out. And this resistance is never perfect. Molecular damage accumulates. Repair mechanisms become less precise. Structures become harder to maintain. Not because biology suddenly fails, but because maintaining order against universal tendencies becomes increasingly difficult. Aging, in this view, is not energy leaving your body. It is order becoming harder to sustain. Energy still flows through you, but more of it goes into simply maintaining what once required little effort. More of it dissipates as heat. More of it spreads into microscopic processes that do not produce visible action. The struggle against disorder grows more expensive. You are not running out of fuel. You are losing the ability to keep energy organized. And this reframes something fundamental. You are not a machine that gradually breaks. You are a temporary pocket of order in a universe that favors dispersion, a brief defiance of a universal trend, which raises an even stranger possibility. Perhaps the real mistake is imagining that you are a stable thing at all. You think of yourself as an object, a stable body moving through time, a physical thing that possesses energy, loses energy, manages energy. But this picture is misleading. You are not a thing that holds energy. You are a process through which energy flows. Consider a whirlpool in a river. It has a shape, a boundary, a recognizable structure. You can point to it and say, there it is. But what is the whirlpool made of? Not the same water from moment to moment. The molecules constantly change. The water enters, circulates briefly, and leaves. The whirlpool persists only because flow persists. Remove the flow and the structure disappears. The whirlpool is not a stored object. It is a temporary pattern sustained by movement. Your body is closer to this than to a machine with a battery. Every second, matter and energy pass through you. You inhale oxygen. You consume food. You release heat. You shed cells. You replace molecules. You exchange energy with your surroundings continuously. Even the atoms in your body are gradually replaced over time. What you call yourself is a dynamic pattern maintained by constant exchange, a structured flow. This changes how we think about aging. If you are a flow rather than a container, then the question is not how much energy remains inside you. The question is whether the flow can maintain its structure. Can it keep the delicate organization that defines the pattern? A river can sustain a whirlpool only under certain conditions: sufficient speed, proper boundaries, continuous motion. If the flow weakens or becomes unstable, the pattern dissolves. Nothing is stolen from the whirlpool. No substance is removed. The conditions that sustain the pattern simply change. Your body faces the same constraint. It must maintain gradients, differences in concentration, temperature, electrical charge. It must preserve intricate molecular arrangements. It must continually channel energy into repair and regulation. As the maintenance of these structures becomes less efficient, the pattern grows harder to sustain. Energy still moves through you, but less of that flow maintains organization. More of it disperses. The structure persists, but with increasing difficulty. And this leads to a subtle shift in perspective. You are not a fixed self gradually losing a resource. You are a temporary configuration that must constantly rebuild itself against a universal drift. Your vitality is not a stored quantity. It is the stability of a pattern. Aging, then, is not the emptying of a reservoir. It is the gradual weakening of the processes that maintain the flow's structure. And once you see yourself as a pattern rather than a possession, another question emerges. If nothing has truly been taken from you, if energy continues to flow, why did youth ever feel so different? You remember youth as abundance, more energy, more strength, more capacity to act. It feels like proof that something real has been taken from you. But look carefully at what was different. not the amount of energy flowing through you. The universe did not give young bodies extra permission to contain more energy. What was different was efficiency. A young body maintains order with remarkable precision. Damage is repaired quickly. Chemical gradients are sharply defined. Cells communicate with minimal error. Molecular structures are rebuilt faster than they degrade. The pattern sustains itself with less effort. Imagine two identical machines performing the same task. One wastes little energy as heat. Its parts move smoothly. Friction is low. Losses are minimal. The other leaks energy constantly. Its components resist motion. It must expend more effort simply to function. Both receive the same input. Both contain the same physical energy. But one feels powerful. The other feels strained. Youth is closer to the first condition. Energy flows through highly organized pathways. Repair systems operate rapidly. Structure is preserved with relative ease. Because less energy is required just to maintain order, more energy remains available for visible action, movement, focus, recovery, growth. This surplus feels like possession. It feels like having more energy. But the total energy involved in your body's processes has never been the defining factor. What changes with age is how much energy must be spent resisting disorder. Repair slows, errors accumulate, maintenance becomes more demanding. Biological structures require increasing effort to remain stable. More of the energy flowing through you is redirected toward basic upkeep. Less remains available for what you notice. The shift is subtle but profound. It is not that your body receives less energy from food or environment. It is that maintaining the pattern becomes more expensive. Imagine trying to hold a complex shape made of sand while waves continuously disturb it. At first, the structure is easy to preserve. Later, the same effort no longer suffices. Eventually, nearly all effort goes into preventing collapse. The energy is still present, but its role has changed, and your experience follows that change. You feel decline because your perception tracks usable energy, energy available for deliberate action, not total energy flowing through the system. Your sensation of vitality measures efficiency, not quantity. Youth was not a time when you possessed more energy. It was a time when less energy was required to hold yourself together. And this realization removes the last comfort of the battery story. Nothing was filled. Nothing was drained. The conditions that once made action effortless were temporary, which leaves a final, unsettling question. If your energy never truly belonged to you, if it has always been flowing through wider processes, where does it go as your capacity to use it fades? You want a destination, a place where your energy ends up, a final accounting, a story of where it goes when your strength fades. But the answer dissolves the question. Your energy does not go anywhere special. It returns to everything. Every moment of your life, energy passes through you and spreads outward. The warmth leaving your skin enters the air. The air warms the room. The room exchanges heat with the wider world. Energy disperses through walls, atmosphere, oceans, and eventually into space. The chemical energy that once powered your muscles becomes motion, then heat, then microscopic vibrations scattered among countless particles. Your actions ripple outward, tiny disturbances propagating through the environment, merging with other processes, becoming impossible to trace. Nothing is kept, nothing is reserved. The universe simply continues its transformation. This is the unsettling implication behind the conservation of energy. The energy that sustains you was never created for you. It was never assigned to you. It was borrowed from ongoing cosmic processes. Sunlight captured by plants, chemical bonds formed long before your birth, flows of energy that predate the earth itself. You are a brief redirection, a temporary channel through which energy organized itself into thought, motion, and awareness. And as the structure that defines you becomes harder to maintain, the flow does not stop. It changes course. The organization dissolves. The pattern relaxes. Energy spreads into less structured forms, joining wider processes beyond the boundary you once called yourself. This is not destruction. It is continuity without identity. The universe keeps the energy. It releases the pattern. And this reveals something deeper about what aging represents. It is not merely biological decline. It is the gradual surrender of an improbable arrangement back to the vast field of possible arrangements. A localized pocket of order slowly merging with the background from which it emerged. You experience this as loss because you identify with the pattern. But from the perspective of physics, nothing essential is taken away. The energy that once fired your neurons, moved your muscles, warmed your body, it continues, rearranged into other motions, other processes, other forms of change. You were never separate from these processes. You were a temporary expression of them. A brief organization in a universe that prefers dispersion. A momentary defiance of equilibrium. And perhaps this is the most difficult realization. Your energy was never a possession. Your vitality was never a personal resource slowly spent. You were a pattern through which the universe briefly organized itself, a structure that held for a time against the quiet tendency of all things to spread and soften and dissolve. The unsettling answer is not that your energy disappears. It is that nothing truly disappears. Only the boundaries you imagined between yourself and the rest of reality. And those boundaries, like all patterns, were always temporary.